but I'm cautiously optimistic
Yeah.
that after 20 plus years of the potential of the India-UK relationship, we may just be at the cusp
Yeah.
of delivery.
Yeah. I would say actually UK in a sense is one of the countries that understands India best by virtue of our history that we've been here in many ways, that do you think that can be leveraged, to take forward this transition from purely a buyer relationship into co-production, co-development first and then co-production, and utilizing the immense talent pool that is available, particularly I would say in the MSME sector, because that is a very vibrant sector in India right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of WM Dialogues. I am really delighted to have my friend Rahul Roy-Chaudhury as my guest today. Rahul may be known to several of you. He is a senior fellow with the International Institute of Strategic Studies, which is based out of London, and he looks after South Asian affairs. So welcome, Rahul. Great to have you here. I thought for a start, if you could trace your journey to IISS. I know that you were part of IDSA and then the NSCS, but if you can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Sure. Thank you, Monty, for having me on your podcast. I've been regularly watching it, so it's a privilege for me to be here with you today. So essentially, very few people know, but the Indian Navy played a key role in my professional expertise and my professional sort of journey in life. And it started after my thesis at Oxford on the Indian Navy.
Okay.
And that brought me to Delhi, to the Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis, where the then director, Air Commodore Jasjeet Singh, agreed that I could continue working on the Indian Navy in IDSA. And I spent several years in IDSA working on the Indian Navy Maritime Affairs and brought out two books. The first in 1995 on sea power and Indian security, and then in 1999-2000 on India's maritime security.
Okay.
And the second book brought me into the National Security Council Secretariat in the Prime Minister's office in Delhi. And I just love the reason and the way it happened. I mean, I was in IDSA, I get a phone call and someone says, listen, I read the conclusion of your book that says India must have a maritime security policy. Can you come and meet me? So I said, well, who are you? He said, I'm the Joint Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
And within a matter of weeks, I moved from IDSA as a Deputy Secretary into the NSCS. And I just thought at that time, this is 1999-2000, amazing how the government of India can work. No political support, no backing, but someone had read the book. I spent 3 fantastic years in the National Security Council Secretariat, and from there moved out back to IDSA for a short while, and then to London, to King's College first, and then the IISS in London.
So coming to the IISS, I mean, IISS, I think, in the security sphere is one of the most reputed think tanks globally, I would say. And can you tell us a little about the organization, how you're structured? And, one of the issues when we talk about think tanks is their ability to influence government policy. I think it's a challenge that every think tank has to sort of go through. Is the IISS quite successful in doing so? You can talk about that too.
Sure. So the IISS is unique. It is a leading British think tank, but it's unique because of the influence it's able to exert both in the UK and abroad. And the reason for this is twofold. I think firstly, the international part of the IISS, that it is the International Institute for Strategic Studies, is hugely important because the IISS is international in terms of its mandate. A lot of our work is done in the Indo-Pacific region. We organize and host the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore annually, which is the annual defense ministers meeting for the region. We do the Manama Dialogue. We do another South Asia Security Conference in Oman. But it's also international in terms of its staff. So I am an Indian national. I work along with 20 other nationalities. in the IISS in our main headquarters in London, but also our international offices, which we have now in Washington, D.C., in Bahrain, in Singapore, and most recently in Berlin.
Okay.
So in terms of the focus, in terms of the depth of the work that we do in the region, it is unique. And our influence comes from that. Because not only do we have international contacts,
Yeah.
we also spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time personally, on raising funding
Okay.
for my program, the South
Yeah.
Asia program. And very often there's a view that, it's a mug's game, raising funding, and it is. But the point is that once you raise funding, you also have a relationship with the funders. So, the IISS is funded by multiple governments and or corporations. And because we have the special relationship, because they have the faith in us and the trust in us, we are able then to deliver. And deliver, I mean in terms of what we call convening power,
Okay.
of getting people around the room. Secondly, in terms of our research-led conferences, which are policy relevant. So we actually look at conflict issues, get people who normally would not talk to each other. And because of our reputation, our relationships in the region, and the trust that we have with our funders, we're able to deliver this and influence
Got that.
these sort of decisions and policy in certain areas.
And how large are you in terms of researchers and people?
So we have a London office has about 200 staff, out of which about 80 are research and then support staff, and the other offices have a handful each. So so maybe I'd say in all 200 plus 50, 60, so 260, under 300.
Yeah. So Rahul, let's come down to the India-UK piece of that. So I think the last year, from a political standpoint, has been quite a landmark year in terms of I thought you could walk us through as to what are the significant sort of breakthroughs that have taken place within the last year, and whether your organization played a role in it. I mean, that would be interesting to know as well. Yeah.
So I've been in London now for over 20 years, like 22 years, and I've been watching the India-UK relationship. And one thing that has always come out in the last 22 years is that the relationship has a lot of potential. But I've heard about the potential for 22 years, for 22 years. But this time is I think the opportunity to move from potential to delivery. And the reason I feel cautiously optimistic on this is that there has been a sort of a transformation in terms of the relationship, the bilateral relationship between the two countries in the last 10 months. So we've had Prime Minister Modi come to the UK in July this year. We've had the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer come to Mumbai in October this year. We've had a free trade agreement essentially being finalized. We've had defense partnerships, a defense industrial roadmap, a Vision 2035 document. We've had sort of cooperation on military exercises, Navy exercises. UK Carrier Task Force has recently been of India. So there have been multiple sort of developments that have taken place, but essentially the agreements are now all stacked up. The political leadership has given, of both countries, has given a directive for a surge in the political relationship. It is now a challenge for the rest of us to see if we can meet that sort of requirement of improving the defense, for us, the defense and security relationship, particularly where we have played a role, where the IISS has played a role. Because 4 years ago, I realized that India-UK defense relations really were focused on the track one dialogue, which is the defense consultative group meetings between the Indian Defense Secretary and his UK counterpart, and very occasional meetings of the two defense ministers. But there was nothing what we call a IISS, a track 1.5 dialogue that brings in senior officials and experts to talk privately off the record and challenge assumptions and try to get new ideas. So I initiated a track 1.5 dialogue with my dear friend Nitin Gokhale of Bharat Shakti, and we've held yesterday the fourth dialogue. And we have some useful ideas how to actually help build the defense and industry relationship and the technology relationship between the two countries to a level that is equivalent to the political surge
Yeah.
that has taken place. And that for us is where we have played a role in bringing
People
the two
together.
sides together, officials and experts from India and the UK.
So you rightly pointed out, Rahul, that the translation of political ideals and political, I would say not even ideals, but political direction into actual activities or actual, happenings on the ground is always is where, the difficult part of it all. Yeah. So you talked about this ideation that was done yesterday, and even I happened to be a part of it. It was a very interesting sort of day that we spent together. Can you, particularly on the maritime side, can you sort of tell our viewers about some concrete proposals, which are showing green shoots and where we can hope for some translation into some greater activity?
Sure. I think there are three that we've identified after the conference, after the meeting. The team and I have sort of looked at it, and it's very important for us now to focus on the maritime area because I think we see that there's sort of both India and the UK have strong maritime interests. India, especially in the Indian Ocean, and the UK's presence in the Indian Ocean, and so we're looking at how we can actually get the two sides working together on issues, including hydrography, for example, to ensure that the hydrographic sort of work that both countries carry out become complementary and not competitive. That's an important issue. We're also looking at the possibility of how we can sort of facilitate the sort of sharing of intelligence estimates that both countries have a common interest in terms of the Indo-Pacific region. And thirdly, there are, from what we learned yesterday, there are key underwater technologies that both countries could benefit by a greater access to them and projects as a result of that. So these are three sort of broad areas that we took away in terms of the maritime sector of the cooperation, potential prospective cooperation between the two countries, to sort of see if we could do this in a track 1.5 framework and how we can sort of push these three ideas further into the track 1 realm, actually.
So when it comes to on the material side of the house, on industry to industry collaboration or industry to government in that sense also, largely I would say that for reasons which are industry is always responsible to their shareholders, and therefore profitability has to be built into that. Otherwise it's difficult for industry to participate in these sort of ventures. So you think some sort of does the government have any role in this from a policy intervention point of view to make this process easier, or you think it's just purely commerce which is going to drive this?
So my sense is that it has to be joint working of both government and business together in each country. So essentially you have a situation now in the United Kingdom where businesses are saying that, listen, we will go into a country like India, we'll invest, but we need the support of the British government going into it. The British government view is, well, it's not the business of the British government to sort of provide the incentives for British business going to India, but to provide and support a framework that would be useful to give the direction that may be necessary, but also a framework for which these things can work together. So you have a situation where both governments, and that's one of the lessons that came out, that both the government and industry, whether in the UK or in India, need to work in tandem for the relationship. It cannot just be industry with industry in that respect. Another issue that came out, of course, is that British defense industry, traditionally compared to other countries, is more risk averse. And that's again something that, as you said, it depends on obviously they're looking at the shareholders, etc. But if we take a slightly longer term view, and I've done a paper for one of the defense companies in the UK on this, that in the next 10 to 15 years, which are the countries in the top 5-6 economies in the world where the UK could have a strong defense relationship, where you have UK companies in those countries helping manufacture, co-create, develop. And India
Figures high.
figures the highest in that respect. So,
Yeah.
so I understand that for several UK companies today, their order books are relatively full because of what is happening in the war in
Europe,
Ukraine and Gaza, etc. But and then for shareholders, this is important. But for shareholders equally, they would want a
long-term
company
view.
exactly
Yeah.
to be profitable in the long term, and that's where India comes in. So my view and what I took away from yesterday's meeting is that we now have the next 12 months to see what can actually be delivered. We've had a political surge in the relationship. We'll have to now see what can be deliverable in this respect on the defense field, particularly in the next 12 months. And as I said, there are 3 or 4 ideas. Others have taken away other ideas, but I'm cautiously optimistic that after 20 plus years of the potential of the India-UK relationship, we may just be at the cusp of delivery.
Yeah. So one last question, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and that is, on this, I mean, one model, of course, is the buyer-seller relationship. But now India is sort of making a transition from there with a strong focus on self-reliance and Atmanirbhar, where the desire now is for co-development and co-production, etc. I would say actually UK, in a sense, is one of the countries that understands India best. By virtue of our history that we've been here in many ways, do you think that can be leveraged, to take forward this transition from purely a buyer relationship into co-production, co-development first and then co-production, and utilizing the immense talent pool that is available, particularly I would say in the MSME sector, because that is a very vibrant sector in India right now. So if you tap into that, I would think that there is an opportunity for a win-win solution for both, that you drive down your costs. You not only become competitive over here and in your own country, you become more competitive internationally also.
Absolutely, Monty. I mean, I think one of the things, again, that really came out for me at the meeting yesterday was that, we've got to refocus from our traditional perspective of weapon systems platforms to technologies, to innovative ideas, to startups and the products there. And I think that, and this all depends on SMEs and the relationship between and among the SMEs in UK and India. So it is hugely important actually to facilitate that contact, because in the end, it will be the new technologies that we're looking at, not traditional platforms, that will become more important for India's security, especially after Operation Sindoor. So that is the way forward. So I think one key takeaway again from yesterday is does the IISS have any role in facilitating contact between SMEs, defense SMEs of both countries? And that's again something that we will be looking at. But absolutely, it is time that we actually have a mindset change and see what can be in the best interest of both countries towards, as you said, towards development, co-development, co-production, and then finally, because of the economies of scale for India to manufacture in India and
to make you globally much more competitive.
Absolutely, and then to export to third countries. So I think that's again one of the sort of defining aspects of yesterday, that we need to change our minds from traditional aspects to the new emerging technologies and ways forward.
So Rahul, I thought we'll wrap up over here. We've been at it for quite some time. Any sort of last thoughts that you might like to share with our viewers on this?
So I think primarily that one of the challenges of the India-UK relationship is of managing expectations. And I think there is, as I said, the political surge there, but there is a lot of hard work now that has to be done. Bureaucracies in both countries, have to really be given the directive. They've got to get the memo from head office that this has to be delivered. And and I think and it is really partnership, and it is building greater trust, respect for both countries for each other. But in the end, it is trust and partnership, and these are the two values, I think. And the two sort of forms that will be important as we go ahead towards the India-UK comprehensive strategic partnership to make it from rhetoric to reality.
So it remains for me, Rahul, to thank you once again for taking the time out and speaking to our viewers in WM Dialogues. And I also want to thank you for the sterling work you're doing in, in improving this relationship between our two countries. I think your contribution has been significant, as also IISS. So thanks.
Thank you, Monty. I really appreciate it.